Hey guys, it's David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and guess where I'm at? I am going to do another plein air here this Sunday morning, and I was just on my run. I'm going to stop. I saw this great thing in McHenry, and so if you look over here, I'm going to be painting this scene right there. We're on the Fox River in McHenry, and so that's what we're going to be painting. Let's just go over here to our... I already sketched it up, and right after this I'll continue my run, but we're going to be painting a little bit of marina, a little bit of the water. And in McHenry here they have these little round globe things that they put fire in at night, and I just thought this was a really kind of nice scene. And the sun is coming in and out of the clouds, and so I drew it when the sun was out, and so that's the way I'm going to paint it. And so here we go. So we're gonna, again, it's a really sunny morning, blue sky, but the blue is more up. If you look up here, it's more blue farther up. And so let's see if I can take this up a little bit so you can actually see. Hold on one second here. And just raise this up a little bit. You can see there's the scene and these are globes. Globes I'm going to be putting in there. And there's a fisherman down at the end. He was there. I may put a fisherman in there, just standing there fishing. So I think you can see pretty much everything. Go down just slightly. And so I'm going to wet the whole surface like I normally do. Take some paper towel out here. Usually a paper towel in the back here. And so what I'll do is I'm just going to wet the whole surface, because I work light to dark. My brush, of course, is dirty, like always. So I'm just going to clean my palette here real quickly. Just clean it up a little bit, just enough to get a little space of white. And so I'm just going to wet the whole surface. There's a little bit of brown in here, and my brush is just dirty brown. That's okay. It'll all go away once I put the blue. I'm going to try to go with the colors here. I'm trying to see if I can't make it look like what it is. And normally when I'm doing watercolor out there, sometimes I do kind of make up some of the colors and stuff. But I'm going to try to go with the colors that I see today, and go from there. It's a beautiful sunny morning. Just beautiful on that. When you do morning scenes, it's nice to get up early and get out there while the sun is low and get those nice shadows, and also great pictures you can take. And then you don't have to always do your painting on the spot, plein air, but it's fun actually doing it. I've been enjoying these plein air sketching, and it's just so much fun to get out here in the morning. And again, put on enough paint so that it becomes about 20% darker than you want it. So if it looks right while it's wet, it's wrong. Just remember that. It has to be a little bit darker, about 20% darker than what you want it to look like. Because what happens is it gets 20% lighter when it dries. So here I'm doing the sky again, and get the sky done. Don't mess around and then just think you're going to come back to it. Get it done now, and then you don't have to ever come back to it. And there are a few little clouds up here that I'll go around. I'll try to go around. Yeah, also you can use white if you need to do that. And as it goes down, it gets lighter. It's almost white. The clouds back here are almost white, and so I'm going to keep it at that. And there's a little bit of green in there, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. A little bit of yellow down here, just a little bit, just a touch. And so we'll put a little bit of green in there. And then right away, I'm going to take this right into the ground, right into the trees back here. I'm not going around things because this is my light. And the water way back here is really light. It's moving down the river. This is the Fox River here in McHenry. I'm about 2 blocks away from where I used to have my studio, and where I still teach at the studio, the owner Lucy. I still teach there on Saturday mornings. And this river has always been like so nice that it runs through here, runs through this little town. And so I'm thinking I'm getting ready for my Grand Marais in September, so I'm doing a little practicing, getting out here and trying to practice up the plein air experience, trying to get myself better at actually doing the plein air paintings. And so here I'm doing the water right away. And so what color is the water? Yes, this water is pretty green, and there's algae right. If you look really closely down here on the side, it's pretty green. It's pretty mucky, but you know, it's basically a reflection, like a mirror of what's in the sky. And so that's what I'm going to do. Just make it opposite that, and again up higher here, going to get a little bit more yellow. Going to go right through the globes here that they have sitting there, because the globes will be all dark, and so again you go right through things that are dark. I will put these trees way in the distance, and they're not going to be as dark as you see them back there. See how dark they look back there? Right, these right here, they're going to be a lot lighter than that. I want to push them back, and so I'm going to use aerial perspective, or I like to call it atmospheric perspective, and the fact that you can make it look farther back, then give it dimension. So I'm going farther back. So here we're just going to do a little bit of a... And I'm missing my favorite program by doing this morning, but I figure while I'm on my run, I just see too many things, and I'm like, okay. I wasn't running in McHenry though. I just passed over the bridge, and I was heading to a state park, and I saw all the beautiful sun, and I'm like, oh, I got to go stop and paint. And so here it is. So there's basically you got your water and you got your sky. And now we'll work from back to front. I'm not going to use this big brush for that. I'm going to use my round. This is a number 18 round. This is bigger than my normal ones that I sell. I usually sell a 16 round, but I couldn't find it this morning, so I'm using this one. And so now these trees back here are going to be green, but I'm going to make them a very bluish green and a lot lighter than it looks, because again, I want to make this look like it's farther in the distance. And I'm not painting a photograph, so I can do this. I can make it what I want it to make it look like. I want to push it back behind, right behind there. And the river here is just it's just shining right now. It's sparkling on the other side of these trees. Right on this side over here, it's basically, if you look at the water, it just sparkles. I'm probably not going to get that in there as much because I am doing more shifting to the right here. But these boats and stuff over here, they have a lot of shifting to it, a lot of sparkle, I mean. So here I'm going in there again. I'm going to make it a little bit darker in the bottom here. It's not so vibrant, I'm just keeping it down, and it's out of focus too. That's okay, make it out of focus. It is farther back, and so you don't want to be able to see everything in focus, because then nothing, is important. I mean, everything is important then, and we don't want to do that. I don't want to make everything important. I just want to make this globes and the trees and this thing over there a little bit more important than back here. There's a plane coming in. I wonder if he's going to land in there. There's actually a plane that can land in the water. There, you see him right now? It's going by right now. You probably can't see him. He's a little bit right going down the river. I wonder if he's going to land on the river. Whoa! Okay. Watch out there. Now we're going to go into here, right into the water with the same color of the background trees. Why am I doing that? Because again, you have the color already in your brush, and then I'm going to just put it right down to the water. And this is all wet. Remember, it's all wet, so I get soft edges. Getting soft edges is what you want. And then there's a little bit of the breaking up of the water. And then it's going to be reflecting. This is reflecting into the water going down here. And then right away, I'm going to get some of these reflections of these boats. And it's basically the white building right here will be made negative painted because of the trees behind it, but I'm going to wait for that to dry. Excuse me. And so now it's just a little bit more dark here, and just kind of get a little bit of this reflection into the water right away. I'm working the parts that I need to work right now, you know, so that later on there'll be hard edge, but right now I can get soft edges. So anything I need soft edge, I'm going to do now. So these boats will have a lot of contrast on them. This area over here will be dark, but I still want to keep this stuff not hard edged, and so I'm going in there while it's wet and getting it all soft edged. Here we go with these, gotta put that in there. You see, I'm reading some of your questions. Hey Ellie, hey Karen, hey, we got here Dennis, Mark. Hey, thanks for joining me this morning. Ellie, hopefully I can get up to Wausau one day and paint up there too. And we can come out and paint with me. You know, if any of you guys want to invite me up and paint with your guys, I love to have company when I'm painting. And so here we go with the. We're going to go and put these little reflections in here right now. I'm trying to get the water done, or part of it. Just, you know, I just noticed that this is, I want to make it soft, but now it is already dry, so that's okay. We can get these little bit of this in there. All right, so that's our basically our big areas of light, and now I'm going to get the big areas of middle tone and darks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to do this big area right here, which is the foreground. And so that's a dark, and but I'll put my middle tone in there first. And it's pretty pretty light, and it's kind of just kind of grayish into the tan kind of colors. And again, like I said, today I'm going to try to stick with some of the colors that I see instead of just making up my colors. A lot of times I make that up when I'm in the studio. I'm making up colors to fit my wants. And so here I'm actually what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make up. I'm not gonna make up the colors. I'm actually trying to get some of the colors that are out there. Just trying to get ready again for Grand Marais, and so that I can kind of get a little bit more accustomed to what color to use for what surface. And this basically is a ground cover, and there's a little bit of plant life in there, as you can see. And so I'm going to do some purples in the ground because it's kind of grayish, and always purple is my favorite color. Being that it's my favorite color, I can make a nice brown and a nice violet, and it works well together with green, purple, and brown. It's kind of like in the member family of brown. Put a little warmth in there. It is pretty red. These rocks that are all along the shore here, if you look, there's rocks all along this edge of the shore. And so I'm just covering that in. That is a dark. It's going to be really darker than this even. So that's kind of like underneath the shadows is what I'm doing right now. And I'm not doing full on, you know, shadow yet. This is again underneath the shadows, and I'll do my darks when I get to that point. Just not right now. It will be as soon as I get this done. And there is really nothing in this area should be as light as in the light area. In my light area, to show the composition, if you look right here, this up here going through here is my light. That's my light area. And as it goes down, that's my light area. So everything else besides that, it will be dark. And so this whole area right here will be dark, and then the tree that's in here, this area, will be all dark. And then over here we're gonna have a bunch of array of darks and lights, but basically it's also more in the family of the dark. And so this is my middle tones. Here's the rock. Put that in there. You can sometimes, like people like to put in the super darks right away. You know, with some of that, that's fine. You can, if you can do that, if you can handle that and put some of it in right away, that's absolutely great. I mean, the more you can get in there, the faster you can get in there, the better. And so don't be afraid of putting really darks in there right away, especially if you want them soft edged. If you want them soft edged, and this again is watercolor I'm doing today. I'm not doing gouache, I'm not doing acrylic, I'm not doing oils. This is watercolor. Though when I do like the gouache and stuff, I still start everything out like this. I still started out very close to what I'm doing right now. So it's not that much different. So here now I'm putting in some of the darks. I want some of these darks to be soft edged, so I'm putting some of that in there. I notice there's a little bit in this plant life. There's a little bit of nice vibrant green, like a lime green. So I'm going to put that in there right now too. So I'm putting this in right a couple spots here where there's like plant life, and I'm just putting in the color underneath just to kind of hit it. And I can also put in gouache in this area, or opaque watercolor. What I can do is white and just put some of the plants so they're shiny, because the sun's kind of stippling through this little area right here, and so there's a little bit of greenery here and there. If you do have questions, you can probably ask them. I can maybe get them later. I'll go through this. Just looking through the questions right now, see if there's any questions. And if you have questions, just again go ahead and ask them. And I'll kind of look in there later. Now let's go into this side here now, because this is all pretty much dry now. I'm going to keep the sky the way it is. It's pretty just bland, and I'm going to keep it that way. The trees over here will be more hard edged, so I've got to make sure that this is all dry. Always check the paper with the back of your hand so you don't get it wet, or you don't put oils into the wetness if it is wet. And so now let's get this little area here, and we're going to start out with the greens. There's some green trees here, and I'm going to kind of go smaller, and it is time for my darks, so it's okay for darks and dark details. So if there's some details you need to get, that's fine. That's a little bit too hard edge right here, and so I'm going to tone that down a little bit. I'm doing two things right here. I'm doing the tree, and I'm also doing the building, that white building that's right there. Right, can you see right there, that building right there, that white building? And you notice how it's out of focus in the background. So it's kind of funny that in my photo here in the live video, this is all out of focus, right? And actually you kind of want to paint it that way. So it's good to look in your camera and every once in a while and see if your camera is actually doing that. So you can actually take that and make this not as detailed as this thing's in front, because that's farther forward, that's farther back, so that's standing back a little bit for you. So I'm just doing this little tree back there. What a beautiful morning it is out here. No wind, just a nice day. It'll probably be hot pretty much today, but... And now when you're looking, I didn't draw all this junk back there, because it'd take me forever if I'm doing that really tight. And so I'm gonna just make a bunch of rectangles and triangles and lines back here, and I'll identify lights and darks of these boats. You know, basically I wouldn't be able to even draw that exactly like that. And why? You don't need to do that. Again, I'm keeping it out of focus, so get some of the colors that you see over there, but don't make them too bright, because again, I want this to push back a little bit. So look at that, there's a line. You can also make it kind of the same color too. And I know it's kind of light against the background dark. I switched that around a little bit because I didn't want this background to be dark. So in that instance, I'm going to just make this darker than the background. And that's some things you can do that you have to do if you are going to change things around, like make the background lighter. And so you're going down here now, and I'm going to keep some of the white. Make sure you keep some of the white in your... And then right here, there's shadow on the building. And so there's this little sign here that's just kind of making it kind of gray, beige. The rooftop of this building is blue. So there's a bunch of blue over here with all these hoists, and they got a bunch of hoists here with a bunch of lines, and so I'm just going to make those blue. And I am not counting how many there are there. I'm basically going to make the roof blue and make a bunch of lines that indicate hoist. I used to work in a marina myself in Fox Lake here, not too far from here, and we use those hoist many times to put the boats in the water. And so I know my boats, I know my marinas. I worked on one for quite a few years, all through high school. And so there we got a bunch of blue, and that also indicates what that building is. It shows that people know from this area that everything's blue on this building here. And then underneath here, we're gonna make it nice and dark. And if you squint your eye there, you can see this area all in through here is all dark. So that's a dark part, and so just push that all into the dark area. Push it into the dark, and then there's a bunch of lines. And there's a shadow going across here. Top of this goes dark. Again, simplifying the area, even though this is not the center of interest. This is the center of interest. These globes and these the fire globes that are on the side of the river here, and the trees, and this rocks will be more of your eye going in here. This is like a secondary interest. So you can get a little bit of detail in there, but don't make it so detailed that that's the most important part. And a lot of times when you go to these marinas and there's all this stuff, there's so much stuff happening in the reflections, but that's what makes it cool. That's why it looks so neat, is all the stuff. But you don't have to paint all the stuff completely. You can fake it a little bit here. There's an alligator right here for a second, but it was just a log in there. Yeah, there are no alligators here. I don't have to worry about that. So we're going on here. I'm gonna get a little color in here now too, because I want to get some color. Some shadowing. Some shadows on here. And then there's a tree back here again, get some of the greens. And when you're outdoors painting, I'm going to be out here just for a little bit. I'm not, and especially since it's a demo, I don't want to spend all your whole morning watching me. But it's just to get out there. If you do make a day of it, that's fun. Then you can take a little bit more time and just relax and just have fun with it. And it's not a painting, it's a sketch. I always call these sketches because this is not like, you have a lot of things happening with the wind and sometimes in the rain, and it depends on what the weather's like, and it's there to teach you. It's there to teach you how to see and look, and then just have fun painting. I'm really going to try next year to do a few more, like V. That's right, coming right now. Just had a bee flying around my head. But I'm going to do some more plein air events. I find them to be really cool. Like, you meet so many nice people. And so it's going to be kind of fun. And so just practicing around. Going here now. And now this is hard edge. See, it's hard edge now. And so I'm going to get some of more of these reflections that you see in the water. Basically, they're just lines of hard edge lines. I call them Z's, doing the Z's, reflections, back and forth, a bunch of Z, and they should be very pointy on the ends. And go through here. And I'm trying to keep things very, very loose, and I'm not in my studio to draw everything up really tight, or the area to be really tight areas. No, you do this just because you want to get it done, and you want to get the big areas. And the big areas are important to get done like that. And then there's just, when you take it back into your studio, if you're doing something bigger, then you get a bunch of reflections, not a bunch of reflections, you get a bunch of time to, to spend time and actually draw it exactly the way it is. Here, you go fast, and you're just kind of trying to get the main look of things. Now this water down here is all darker, so I'm going to do that right away. Get a little blue in there, and it's like a nice long waves. You may not even see that in the camera. This way a little bit here. You see how it's darker down here, and so there's not much waves, but if I put a few in there, it'll just give it more wavy, more waves to it. So here we go. Just gonna make it a little bit darker. All right, now I'm gonna let this part dry over here, and now let's get into our trees, and then we'll do our really darks and stuff. So the trees, there's many ways of getting foliage in trees, and they have these things called funny brushes, where the rubber band brushes. You can use a brush like this, which is like just a bristle brush. You can tap it down, bristle brush, and you can just kind of go in there and just tap. First you gotta wet it and put paint on it, but it works usually. And what I do is I first do the light colors of the leaves, and see how that kind of makes it. That's almost, to me, too detailed. So I'm just going to take my regular brush. I'm just going to poke it down, and again, I'm first getting my colors of light, the light greens, and they're more yellow. So I'm just going to pick into some yellow, more of a yellow behind that, and then I'll put darker greens on top of that, because this is like the sun is behind all the leaves. So I'm doing the light leaves first. And see, I'm just pushing my brush, and I'm just basically drawing the leaves. Like I said, there's many different ways. You can use a sponge that's kind of really a natural sponge. A lot of times people use that. There's many different ways of getting leaves, and you decide on and practice that on a scrap sheet of paper to see what kind of leaves you want to do. I just like drawing them in, basically with my brush, and just like do a nervous shake. I see, if you have like a shaky hand, well, that's a good time for you. Then I'm just going to put this in here, and see how I'm putting the lights in first. The light part goes first. Again, why? Because I'm going to go on top of that, and this will be behind, and really the sun's shining from behind. It's not shining in front of me. I mean, I'm being blocked by the sun. I do have a new setup that I will be showing you guys soon. I just bought a whole new setup. I got to cut some of the new what do you call it, the cookie sheet. I'm going to cut out a new one for this new tripod I bought, and I got a new umbrella, and the new umbrella fits right over this, and it's going to be great. I can't wait to get it all ready. So there's my light, right? There's my light colors. Now let's go to our dark colors, our dark green. And the dark green has a lot of orange in it. So I found that out that a lot of times I made my greens way too vibrant, the dark ones, and they're way too, and I don't use them straight out of the tube. And so right here is really dark. So I'm going to make that really dark, and there's a lot of, what is in this? I don't even know what this is. I think this is Hooker's green. Actually, this is a green. And a little purple in there, and orange. Remember, I put orange in there. Make it really dark. And I'm just going to kind of go in here, tap it, dab it. And a lot of it will be hard edge, and a lot of it will be soft edges, because if I put it into the area I just put in, that of course is wet, and that'll give me a soft edge, and then the hard edges. And then I'm going to scumble across. I'm going to take my brush and really lightly hit the side of the brush across the texture of the paper, and that gives me a kind of a little textury look. And see, now I'm getting my darks, and it's all gonna fall together, because then my lightest light will look. These will look light. I mean, that looked dark before, right? And now look at how dark how light it looks. So now is my time for my darks. And I will put some opaque colors in here. If I find that I get rid of too much of the blue sky, I will just take white and blue, and I'll put some of that in right over the top of this. You know, again, don't feel like you can't do that. I mean, a lot of people always think that, you know, oh man, I lost all my light. I'll just put it in opaque wise. Yes, you can't enter into certain shows, but do it. you want to make the painting look good is most important. And if you lose sometimes your colors, or you lose some of the lights, just put it in there. Here I'm putting in some nice dark blue. This is almost like a Prussian blue with the green. And I can put in the branches a little bit later. I mean, this brush has a really fine point. If you look, it's a really, really fine point on there. And so I can get that, but I can wait till later to do that too. See, I can put the little light. or dark little leaves. But a rigger brush is so much better for branches than something like this, because if I press a little harder, then I don't get that nice little soft edge or thin line. So now in the shadowing part down here, there's a little shadow on this side of the tree, so I'm just going to put that right down. Get a little bit more of my purple into the leaves, or not into the leaves, to the rocks. And there's some shadowing here. And these rocks are really dark, and the tops of them are really light. So I'm going to do some negative painting. Painting the top of the rocks by painting around the top of the rocks. And so now I'm just going to go down here and do the rocks. And the side of the rocks are dark, and the top of the rocks are light. And so just that distinction right there is enough to make it look three-dimensional. And that's the first color I put down there. That's why I put the first color, the first value, the lighter value, because then that becomes the lightest light on that rock, and the side becomes dark. And then you can put all kinds of color in there. You can put warm colors in there. There's a lot of warm colors in there. There's a lot of orange in there. Now these back here I'm going to keep less colorful because I want them to stand back there. These right here, these rocks, boulders, I'm going to make a lot darker and a lot warmer because I want them to come forward. And again, once you have water in there and pigment, then you can float your pigment too. Morning. And so I'm going to go through here, a little bit more color into there. No problem. You'll be on Facebook. I'm live right now.
That's nice.
So, thank you.
How long does it take you to do something like that?
About an hour.
Really?
Yep.
You are good.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too. So now we're getting a few more darks in here. Then going down. I think it takes me about an hour usually. I try to keep it at an hour. Otherwise you guys are going to get really bored. So, you guys got any questions? Let me see. Where is this? Beautiful and peaceful. Hey Pamela. Hey Pam. This is wonderful. Thanks Beth. Caroline. This is in McHenry. If you just jumped in, I'm in McHenry, Illinois. That's where my studio used to be. And before I had to close it. And I used to be in studio on Pearl Street here, which is a block away from the river, down that way. There's two bridges in McHenry here that you go crossing, and I was on the second bridge, the small bridge, and so that's where my studio was. And there's a lot of beautiful things here. And so we got a little paper towel in the back here. Now let's get our shadows in here. I'm going to tie all these rocks together into my shadow. So what I'm going to do here is just take a little bit of violet with the orange and see how there's going to be a little shadow. Actually, I want to get some of this foliage. I'm going to negative paint some of this grasses here by putting it dark around it. And then put it back here. See, there's grasses here, and so what I have to do is I have to keep them light and then paint around them. Again, I know that's for a lot of people it's a hard idea and hard to understand to do negative painting, because basically what you're doing is you're painting around the object and to create the object. And then so I'm keeping those little greens there, a little bit of violet, actually a lot of violet here that I'm going to put in here because this ground is pretty. And again, if you don't get it with the negative painting, you can also put it in with the light and making it opaque. And that's sometimes a way of learning also. I find that if you just put it in there with the light, then next time you may realize what it is that you got to keep light, and then because you're putting in the light, you're basically painting it like an oil painter does. So here again, I'm going to just go around this little area here. And so that's going to green. That's the green part. Now if you can go a little closer in on this, I'll show you in a second. And then I'm just going to put this down. Oh, we got some paddle borders coming through here. I should take a shot. You can see them coming in the video. You can see them. They're coming in paddle borders. Looks like a nice thing to do in the morning. Okay, Okay, ask him to stay right there. I can put him into the painting. So there we have a little bit of light going through there. So just kind of, and then once in a while it's wet, also don't be afraid of putting in some color into this. And again, like I said, you can also put this in with opaques. So if you feel that you just don't get it, just put in with opaques, and then you'll see later on what it is that you have to paint around. Because basically negative painting is the light areas that you're painting around with the darks. And so, okay, and then basically 2 more things to do, and that is to get the globes in there, and that's detail. So now I'm going to go even smaller with my brush, next size down, and I'm going to take my round brush, and these globes are basically really, really dark, and so that's why I'm just going to make them really, really dark. I'm just going to take my darkest colors. You don't have to like mix a black. I have black in my palette right here. I just put that down and I mix color into the black, and then I get a color. And so here I'm just going to try to go in here and then just basically make it black at first, and then I'll put color into that area. And this looks like it's a globe of the world, actually, this one right here. And so it's cut off a couple spots. And this will identify it as, you know, McHenry, and that they have these here. And they are really rusty, and so I will get some of that in there, but let me just first put in the big areas so that I can then wet it. It's wet then, and then I can go in and put some of the warm colors in there, the rust colors, and float that. Remember, float your pigment. And somebody asked me this week again, exactly explain, what does float your pigment mean? Basically, you're putting water down, and then you apply the paint as like it's floating, it's floating into the water, the pile of water, and then that's basically float your pigment. And why do you do that? Because that's the best way of showing a really fresh wash, because it's basically doing its own thing. I'm going to do that. Hold on one second. Let me just think what I'm doing here. I want to do the inside, and the parts are inside a little bit. And this is actually all closed in here, so I'm going to put that in there. And then once it sits on, so basically that's what I mean when you're floating your pigment. It's just you're putting it into a puddle of water, and then you basically let the pigment float, and that becomes very fresh looking wash. It looks, and it granulates usually, so you get granulation happening. Now this next one I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, you know, so that it again gradually goes back, even though in real life it isn't doing that at all. It's really dark, just like the other one, because you're looking at that, but you as the artist has to take your artistic license and make things fall back and forth, because that's how you do it. If you're just making a look at a photograph, then might as well just take the picture and then just take it home and copy it. But this is, I want to make it look three-dimensional, and as an artist you have to then take and realize that you're not a camera, you're not taking a shot and it's boom, that's it. No, you're looking at it and thinking, I gotta make this look even lighter, this one, and this tree branch I can make it a little bit lighter or less color, and then it'll fall back, it will go back farther. Here, put a tree trunk. And I think as a beginner watercolorist, that's what one thing many of you don't understand, is that it's not just copying the photograph that makes the picture. I mean, because the picture is really looking good, right, when you have a photograph. And so they think that if you just copy it, it'll make it look really good as a good painting, but it'll just look like a good photograph. To make it a nice artwork, then you have to make things different on it. You have to make things fall back, push forward, and then the camera doesn't give you that, because the depth of field on cameras nowadays is so good that everything's in focus, and so you want to kind of make things out of focus in a way. Thanks, Becky. I'm making my greens look great. Is purple a good color to use with green, even in trees? Yes, purple and green are wonderful colors to use together. They really help each other out a lot. And so I do use a lot of purple in my green. and it makes it kind of a brown. Basically, is what you're doing, is you're making the green and the yellow and then the orange and the purple all together, kind of make a brown in a way. So green, yes, green and purple are great. Now, because there's a lot of blue over here, I forgot to put some of the blue over this side, so I'm going to do that too here really quickly. Just going to take a little bit of blue and then just float it in here. And again, floating, why do I float? Is because then it becomes fresh. It's a fresh way of putting in paint on top of other colors. And I can put lights on top of darks as long as you float it. You can put lights on top of darks, remember that. You don't have to worry about it being opaque, because it's wet, and then it'll float right on top, and it'll just settle in with the pigment. And see how I'm putting blue into the purple? It'll be perfectly fine, and there's even a lighter blue on top of a dark purple. But I re-wet it, and I'm letting it float, and it'll be absolutely, absolutely wonderful, fine, and everything like that. And so here, we'll put a little of that in there. And now, I'm not going to put too much detail down here, right? I want my detail into this area over here. So we're just going to kind of do this. There's a pier back there, and then I have to wait for it to dry to get my last little globe back there. And so now all I have to do is get a little bit more detail up in here with some really fine looking leaves, some dark leaves again, and some branches, nice little branches through here. I'm going to scumble a little bit. Scumble meaning I'm just going to go across it quickly using the texture of the paper. I made a little bit more blue this time, a dark blue. So again, you don't want anything to just be one color. You know, things are not one color in nature. There's a lot of reflected light. A lot of reflected light. Okay, let's really quickly put this in there, and we're going to get going here so that we're almost done. I gotta get to the state park and do my run still. So we're gonna go put a little bit of the globe in there. There's that globe, and now let's go over here, get a few darks in here, because I do want to get a few dark contrasty things over here so that it matches this area. That could be like the engines, the bottom where the water hits the bottom of the boat. There's a lot of Mercury engines, and they're black. So that's kind of nice that they're black. I can just put in really dark dark engines in there. And then they just opened the door in here, so now there's going to be a little dark, nice dark in here. I got to paint some of these things in there. See how just a little bit of dark makes things pop. It makes it look a little bit more like what it is. Dark in there. I'm not even looking up right now, because I have to make things up. Gotta hurry up here. And I'll take the tape off and let's just see what it looks like without the tape. And then at the same time, when you have that dark, put it into the water. Oh, fish just popped up. A little bit more reflection in here. Because if you put the dark into the area here, then don't forget about putting it into the water. And again, Z's is very much little Z's. And then step back once in a while, take a look at the whole thing. Mr. Parks in my life drawing class would always say that every now and then, get up off of your bench, get back and take a look at the whole thing. One of the things that burns in your brain when you have a good teacher that constantly says things over and over again, which I do, then hopefully one day you remember it, and so it just burns into your brain. Let's make this a little bit darker. This here. All right, I think I'm done, guys. Let's just take a look at it from a distance. Let's see if I have any more questions. Are landscapes better with more textured canvas? Allie, it depends on what you're, if you're doing a watercolor, I think it's nice. Yeah, it probably would be. If you're doing an oil, I think definitely. I usually do, this is on paper, on rough paper, but usually when I'm on the spot, what I have done is I've taken hardboard, and put gesso on it, and I actually make texture. So yes, it is better to make texture on landscapes. All right, guys, let me just take this off and take the tape off, and we'll see what it looks like without the tape. Give myself a little bit of a mat around it. And so there we have it. There we have it without. Let me go close up on it. So there you have it. A little bit of scene this morning. And thanks for watching, guys. And if you ever want me, invite me up and paint together. Invite me to your town. More than happy to come up and paint with you guys. I'm doing a lot of practicing before Grand Marais, which is in September. So follow me on my Facebook page, and also go to my YouTube. This will be on my YouTube channel. And every Thursday I do a paint along. And for you, most of you know that. But I do a Thursday paint along where we paint the same thing, and then put it on my Facebook group, which is the BeckerArt group. All right? All right, until next time, guys. Until maybe next Sunday. We'll see. I think I'm going to go for my run now. All right? We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, guys.